Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God!
Stellaris Developer Diary 277 dropped a little earlier than expected this week, and it's come with a massive update. We now know when Stellaris patch 3.6, the Orion patch, which has been in open beta for quite a while, will be arriving as an official update for Stellaris. And before we go any further, to prevent any accusations of clickbaiting, that date is the 29th of November, which at the time of recording is next Tuesday. Alongside this announcement, they've also released a preliminary changelog for some changes that are being added in Stellaris 3.6. Now, this isn't the full patch notes, so I won't be covering it in detail, but I am going to single out a couple of things that I think have been slightly overlooked, given the massive avalanche of changes that we're going to be getting with Stellaris 3.6. So without any further ado, let's dive in. The date of the 29th of November is a preliminary potential release candidate. What does that mean? Well, what they're trying to do at the moment is put it out on that date unless there are any unexpected issues that could definitely arise from the changes that were pushed out in the beta update yesterday on Wednesday. Given there is only a week between now, Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving by the way if you're watching this in the US, and next week on the 29th of November, less than a week actually, sorry, there's only 6 days between the 3.6 beta update that was published on Wednesday and next Tuesday. Given that short space of time, it's unlikely that they can actually fix any issues in that kind of week that could arise. So if anything big crops up, they're either going to have to push that release date back by possibly another week, or sit on it and fix it in a post-release patch of 3.6. Given what's happened in the past, I expect they'll fix it in a post-release patch, but we're just going to have to wait and see. And if you're enjoying this video, please set a preliminary release date for that like button. The game director Eladrin, who wrote this dev diary, also has some comments on this entire open beta process. In essence, from his perspective, it has been an incredible success, and they're very likely to do this with similar releases in the future. I suspect that means similar custodian releases, and of course not be releasing open betas for the DLC, the paid DLC patches, but we will have to see if they clarify that. Orion is now in a much better shape than it was previously thanks to our feedback, and the game director intends on pursuing a smaller set of changes for the next update, testing out a limited set of AI vassalization acceptance changes as a next open beta with some possible economic tweaks. So we could be getting some changes to the economic system in the game. Now, economic tweaks sounds very minor, but the effects that the economy can have on the overarching gameplay in Stellaris cannot be overstated. So what is next for the release cycle of Stellaris? We haven't had any DLC announcements yet. That means we're almost certainly, we're basically definitely not getting a DLC released alongside this patch 3.6. I was very, very hopeful actually, given the secrecy and the speed at which Toxoids was released after the release of Overlord, given that it was only I think a 3 or 4 month gap between them when you take into account the summer holidays. I was very hopeful we might get some sort of story pack coming out with 3.6 now in December. Something along the lines of Distant Stars. It now doesn't look like that will be happening. Instead, we'll be getting patch 3.7, the Canis Minor update, in Q1 of 2023. I assume that will be the pre-patch before we get an announcement and indeed a release of the next major expansion DLC. If we're looking at what the timetable is almost always like, we get one major expansion DLC per year, and that generally comes out in around May, roughly that time. That's when we had Overlord, that's when we had Nemesis, that is when we had Federations. So if they keep to that schedule, we're going to be getting a DLC released after patch 3.7, the Canis Minor update. So far, the things scoped out for the Canis Minor update include a rebalancing of technologies to make the engineering branch less heavy compared to the other two, and further changes or tweaks to the combat rework based on live observations. Now, all of that and more will be outlined later on this year and next year when the dev diaries start going in to their next cycle and looking at the next update. But if you're looking for something to do in the meantime, well, Humble Bundle and the Black Friday sale have got you covered. If you'd like to support this channel and get a fantastic deal on a whole host of games and DLC, then follow the Humble Bundle affiliate link down in the description and get whatever you want. There's currently up to 75% off on more games than I can actually list here. And by using this channel's link down in the description, some of your purchase will go towards supporting not only charity, but also this channel. The Black Friday sale is on now and ends December 2nd. The first big change we're going to be seeing with 3.6, which is not written in this changelog in the Dev Diary 277, and as far as I can tell wasn't mentioned in other changelogs or patch notes either, because I don't think I've seen it, but I've come across this in the game itself, and that is new orbital ring buildings. Orbital rings are a new megastructure we can build as of Stellaris Overlord, and they provide us with a variety of bonuses. You can fill them up with defensive platforms to make them a formidable force to be reckoned with. You can build modules on them, either defensive modules or additional modules to increase the planet size of the planet below. And finally, you can build buildings. Now, why is this interesting? Well, we've got the basic buildings we've seen for a long time. Low gravity mega refiners, stratospheric ionization elements, climate optimization stations. These sorts of buildings add to our base output for food, energy credits, minerals, as well as trade value, unity from our bureaucrats, priests, that sort of thing, consumer goods, and alloys. But then you'll notice we have some new buildings available. Now you can build a psi core. Instead of building it on the planet below, you can build it in orbit, and it will provide all of the regular benefits that it did down below. However, you won't have to use a building slot for that planet. We also have the orbital shield generator. As long as you don't build a shield generator on the planet below, you can, instead of protecting the planet and making it more resistant to orbital bombardment, you can increase the shield hit points and shield hardening of all defensive platforms and star bases in the system. That is actually, I believe, really powerful, being able to increase shield hardening by 25% like that. We've also got the Orbital Stock Exchange, so if you don't have a galactic stock exchange down on the planet below, you can instead set up this one. It's going to have, again, all of the same benefits. However, you're going to get increased reductions to the upkeep of these buildings, let's not forget, because we have better and more ways of reducing the cost of star bases and star-based buildings than we do from reducing the cost of our upkeep from planetary buildings. So this orbital stock exchange will be much cheaper to run than a regular stock exchange down on the planet's surface. There is also an embassy complex. If you hate having to build your embassies on the planetary capital, instead you can now build your embassy in orbit, and again it will provide exactly the same benefits. And finally, the Orbital Slave Processing Hub. That, again, has the same benefits as the Slave Processing Hub down on the planet below. Now I assume there are more buildings available than just the ones that we are seeing here. But overall, this is an exciting new change that's kind of been shoved in without much pomp and circumstance. And I'm very happy about this new shield generator. That's going to make star bases and defensive platforms even more defensible. As you can see, I've comfortably got this one up to 261,000 fleet power. But improvements to orbital rings are not the only stealth upgrade we're seeing in patch 3.6. Ring worlds, and additionally the Shattered Ring Origin, have received a massive boost. So, at the moment, ring worlds suffer because they can't get these orbital assembly buildings that I've just gone through, as they cannot have orbital rings above them. However, as of patch 3.6, all of the buildings that are built on the planet's surface, when upgraded to the highest level, will then give you all of the benefits normally given by their related orbital ring building as well. Meaning that energy nexuses, alloy nanoplants, mineral purification hubs, all of these things will be getting a massive boost if they're on your ring worlds. Now, of course, that is also a bonus not just for ring worlds, but also for shattered rings, meaning that you can get up to that maximum production level much quicker and much cheaper than a regular empire on regular planets. But that is not the only benefit that the Shattered Ring Origin is going to be getting. As of patch 3.6, it's now been reworked so that the number of segments that are colonizable, that is ring world segments themselves, on the game start now depends on the guaranteed habitable world setting. These segments have a large amount of blockers, including some that require advanced technology in order to clear, and this impacts the habitability of the segment even if you're a robot. That will put your habitability all the way down to 0%. But ladies and gentlemen, as I'm going to show you in a moment, that's not as bad as it actually sounds. Right, so Shattered Ring World segments are also no longer ideal worlds, but have a base 100% habitability. Repairing Shattered Ring World segments now qualifies you for the Galactic Wander's Ascension perk. The cost and time to restore the Shattered Ring World segment has been reduced by 25% as well. Right, so on the surface it seems like something of a minor change, but in fact, this is a massive change that could push Rogue Servitor Ringworld back into being the meta. So here we have a Ringworld setup. It's very similar to what you would normally see. I've gone with rapid replicators, mass produced. We're going to be getting our pops out as fast as possible, but this time I'm going with Shattered Ring. So at the start of the game, we're going to have 2 habitable planets in our home system. That is habitable sections D and B of this Ringworld. But they are at habitability 0 because there's a Ringworld Shattered habitability cap of 100% minus 100% due to all of these blockers. Now the blockers we have will take some technologies generally to clear them, but we won't be able to look at that until we actually colonize the world. So first things first, like any playthrough, I'm going to colonize these 2 guaranteed habitable worlds as quickly as I can. As a machine empire, you might still get some non-guaranteed habitable worlds in the vicinity of your capital as well, and that's even more fantastic. But no matter what happens, we will definitely be guaranteed these 2 Shattered Ring worlds. You're going to want to grab Domination for that lovely minus 33% clear blocker cost effect, and something else that I haven't mentioned so far is the nature of your pops. You see, going for lithoid pops allows you to get volatile excretions, meaning that you should be able to trigger relatively quickly if you just say buy 10 of them, the Volatile Land Clearance Edict. Combining these 2 together will mean that we can clear the decrepit tunnels on our capital at a fraction of the regular cost. If we're really lucky, we can add in a bulldozer type governor, meaning that goes down even further, so we can spend 170 energy here and immediately get back 200 minerals and 100 alloys. Of course, that's going to be a really, really good idea. And as soon as your first colony sets down, you can also immediately go in and begin clearing the blockers on the colony there as well. Now, some of these blockers are going to require that you have specialist technology. These are the blockers which reduce the habitability cap of the planet. Though yes, we do want to remove these eventually, they actually won't be too much of an issue straight away. And this is going to make it a net benefit for colonizing these planets. Just queue them up and let them figure themselves out while you've got the colony nicely colonizing. This will provide you with a fantastic and steady income of alloys and minerals at a lower additional cost than you would normally be getting, and that's not even the main benefit of grabbing these extra Ringworld segments. On the surface, being at 0% habitability would be absolutely terrible. We're getting a massive minus 50% resources from jobs, minus 50% pop growth speed, plus 100% pop amenities usage, and plus 100% pop upkeep. And I believe the devs think this has been entirely fixed because even robots are at 0% habitability. But we can ignore most of these effects and still get fantastic use out of these planets in just a moment. The first building we're going to throw down once this colony is finished is a machine assembly plant. The machine assembly plant is going to give us an extra replicator job. Now what do those do? Well, replicator jobs increase our monthly mechanical pop assembly by 1. They have some upkeep, and on this world, that upkeep is doubled, so instead of being 1 energy, we're now paying a whopping 2 energy per drone working this job. Yes, it's terrible for us, but we're going to be getting quite a lot of additional pop assembly. Now these pops, instead of keeping them on this world at 0% habitability and building additional districts, we can instead ship them straight back to our capital, which is a size 25 world that we're going to be filling with energy districts, or industrial districts, or research labs in order to boost our production. On top of that, you're going to have an overwhelming glut of minerals at your disposal here, so you can definitely use those minerals to build nexus districts and then add in an organic sanctuary. And if we migrate one of our humanoid pops over there, once we do actually have some habitability, which you can get by clearing out one of the blockers relatively early on, as long as you get the right technologies, we'll then be able to get some pop growth kick started. Don't forget that you also now get to have the simulation site accessed by your rogue servitors, so that's going to make them even more powerful in terms of getting actual Unity production off the ground, as we no more have to rely on just our bio trophies to get Unity production. And when we start scaling up our capital here, we're going to find that we can get some fantastic bonuses when we upgrade these buildings to the maximum level, as they'll now also get the additional bonus as if you had an orbital ring with that benefit. So we're producing from just 10 fabricators here, 135 alloys per month, which is really, really good. Along with plenty of energy as well, because the energy nexus has been upgraded too. When we combine the two guaranteed Ringworld segments that should be pumping out plenty and plenty of pop assembly and pop growth each month, with the possibility of additional habitable worlds around you, it's starting to look like the Shattered Ring worlds are back in fashion. Of course, none of this was an optimized build, I'm simply pointing you in the right direction here. I do want to produce some builds for patch 3.6, however, most of that does need to wait until we get the final release update, which will be coming quite soon. If you're of the American persuasion and you watched this early enough, happy Thanksgiving. And for the rest of the world, I hope you enjoy the Black Friday sales. Go capitalism. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to find out more about the new zombie leviathans and the parasitic overmind government type, click the video on screen now.